All right.
Oh, that's a lovely shot of me.
Yeah. Keep that.
That'll be my new picture on the website.
All right, we're wired for sound. Do we have a quorum?
Hey, good morning, everybody. We're at the Capital District Use Center. Quarterly meeting, 9 AM, Wednesday, June 21st, 23. We're gonna start off with our roll call. Albany County, William Hunters here. Lucille McKnight. Kristen Winton.
Here.
Laura.
Here.
Bauer. Michael Stammel.
Here.
Susan Estano.
Here.
Craig Warner here. Gary Hughes. Is he online?
He's not online.
Not online. Samantha Miller from.
Online present.
Thank you very much.
Oh, there's Mr. Hughes.
Oh, there's Gary.
So, here we go. We got our guest. Today we have. Mark,
Nate Baker from Gilbane, our construction manager. Bob Ryan, our attorney, and Maura Manning, Commissioner of Division of Children, Youth and Families for Albany County. New members, pending appointment at the next meeting, Mike Stammel from Rensselaer County and Gary Hughes from Schenectady County. Thank you, gentlemen, for
Let the record show that neither of us are new.
new to this board.
New to us. Here.
thank you very much.
Oh, and Mike McLaughlin from Albany County is joining.
Alan.
Super. Number two, the April 19th, 23 meeting minutes. Everybody's seen them. Do I have a motion? So move approve. First, do I have a second?
Awesome.
Thank you, Laura. Yays?
Aye.
Nays? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, on the third item, the executive session, we're going to have that after our 21 audit report. So in that situation, we're at number 4, the financial statements through May 31st.
Sure. So for those new to this board, we have lots of financial statements attached to your finance memo. And I did provide Mike and Gary with an acronym sheet because we do use a lot of acronyms on this board. So SD for secure detention through April, we're just over 1.1 million in operating expense. Total operating expense anticipated through May is just under or just over 1.8 million. And the specialized secure detention, 1.6 million, and that should say through April, not through February. And the total expense is just over 2 million. So you see the sort of new normal is that the specialized secure tracks about 35% higher in terms of operating costs than the secure detention facility. You'll note on the balance sheet, just this sheet here, that we have some new clearing accounts related to the debt service payments. So for the capital project, Albany County pays the debt service payment and then seeks reimbursement from the state for 89% of the total project costs. That when they submit for reimbursement, they let us know, and that's our trigger to bill out the other 3 counties to have them contribute their cost share to the 11% local match. And so these clearing accounts just put it on our books and then take it off our books when we send it to Albany County to reimburse them for the other counties' shares. Just for the new members, we do have two profit and loss presentations. We have one total profit and loss, which is the combined operations of total facility. And then we have a profit and loss by class, the classes being specialized secure and regular secure detention, just to show you the individualized costs of both of those facility types.
Thank you, Mark. Do I have any questions? Hearing none, let's vote to approve it. Do I hear it? Yes. I approve. Okay, do I have a second? Or second? Approvals, yes. Nays, any? Hearing, well, it passes. Okay. Number 5, the audit report for 21. Mark?
Sure. So we have Alan here from Bonadeo. They've been our auditing firm for many years, have seen us through the transition to raise the age and all the things that we've had to readjust to account for that law, including redoing how we actually operate and generate revenue. There will be comments and Alan will go over them in this year's audit. I just wanted to provide an overview from staff's perspective on those comments. So they were related to the transitions that we had to make when raise the age was imposed. As you remember, at that time, we transferred from a pay-as-you-go model to a quarterly reimbursement model. In anticipation of potential cash flow issues, the board in 2017 and 2018 decided to delay overpayment reimbursements to the counties. We also had to change the way we were receiving payment for bed days. As you recall, we used to be able to set our own rates annually. And then we had to move to a model where OCFS would set our rates at the end of each quarter. That created some discrepancies in the books because we also had a transition in accountants during that time period. So for example, a rate for Q4 2019 or 2018 was booked at a rate that we had set, but then we had to reimburse and then we had to send a new rate and send new bills. But that original accounts receivable for the original rate that was charged was still left on the books. So it's things like that where we had receivables that weren't reconciled, they weren't closed out, they weren't corrected. And that's the lion's share of the comments that Bonadeo found on this year's audit. There was also an instance with this new process of us paying Albany County for the raise the age pre-construction work. There was a payment that was due to Albany County that was not paid in a manner, which they also pointed out in the audit. So with that, I'll introduce Alan to walk us through the audit. Do you want me to bring it up on the screen or?
You can if you have it, but if not, that's fine.
Okay,
If you have the report, it's fine. So just to introduce myself, my name is Alan Walther, partner with the Bonadeo Group. As Mark said, we've been the CDYCI auditors for a number of years now. We've completed our audit for December 31st, 2021. And issued 2 reports, a required communications letter, and a audited financial statements. I'd just like to thank Mark and the rest of the staff and Tom White, especially for all their assistance in getting the audit done. As Mark said, as we look at the reports, we did have a material weakness in the internal controls, primarily due to the time when we're talking about 2021 audit. It's almost end of June, very late time in this. There is I guess the struggle was reconciling everything, as Mark said, getting all the December 31st, 21 trial balance reconciled and getting all the schedules, which we've got to that point. Mark and I were talking offline beforehand about 22. We'll get started with 22. Hopefully we'll find everything to be in a much better spot. There is a lengthy response to our comments, which I won't go through, but you guys have it to read it. Our expectation as we do the 2022 audit is that we'll find things to be much better shape, cleaner, and get the audit done. So with regard to our required communications letter, there's just a couple of things to talk about here. There were no new accounting policies adopted in 2021, so that the CDYCI accounting policies are the same as they have been. On page 2 of that report, difficulties in performing audit, we did have some difficulties as was discussed, just with the timeliness. Again, we think that we have that CDYCI has implemented procedures to get past that. Misstatements and adjustments, there were some adjustments that were attached to attachment A that we worked through with Tom and Mark, and those have been recorded and your books reconciled back to audit. And then the last thing on the required communication letter is disagreements with management. If we had any disagreements with management with regard to accounting policies, access to records, anything like that, we have to disclose that, and we did not. As the audit, even though it was a lengthy process and the timeliness is not what either of us would like, the cooperation was perfectly fine. So that is it with regard to the required communications letter. And then, unless there's any questions, we'll jump into the audit report. So since Mark has the table of contents, we'll just talk about what's in here, and then I'll hit upon the highlights. So on page 1 is our auditor's report. And then beginning on page 4 is your management's discussion and analysis. That gives a good overview of what happened during the year. It's written in relatively layman's terms, and if you don't want to read the entire report, just read that. It gives a good overview. On page 7 through 10 is the financial statements and the notes of the financial statements. And then on page 13 is a required report under government auditing standards. It's important to note that even though we assist in the preparation of this document, the report on page 1 and page 13 is ours. The financial statements are yours. Okay, so you can take responsibility for the financial statements, but we audit that. So the on page 1, Mark, if you can scroll back to the auditor's report. Yep, you went past it right there. Okay, so that second paragraph is our opinion, and I will paraphrase. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly the financial position of CDYCI as of December 31st, 2021. That is what we as auditors call an unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements. Okay. Let's move on to page 7, which is the statement of net positions.
Here?
No, I think the next page. No, next page, right there. There we go. Statement of net position. So the statement of net position is similar to the balance sheet. It shows that the assets and liabilities of CDYCI. So the highlights here, your total current assets as of December 31st, 21, $2.7 million, of which approximately 95,000 was cash. $2.6 million is due from other governments. That's the amount that's due from the counties. You do have approximately $24,000 in your reserve account. And then your liabilities, accounts payable, approximately $2.6 million as well. That is primarily due back to Berkshire Farm for the management of the facilities, and then $38,800 due to the counties. And then the accounting formula is assets minus liabilities, brings you to net position. You have a net position at the end of the year of $143,000. On page 8, the next page, is your statement of revenue and expenses and changes in net position. And as Mark said earlier, the financial statement as well, the revenues and expenditures are broken out between the secure detention and the specialized secure detention. So for 2021, the revenue generated was a little bit over 4.5 million. Your occupancy related expenses were 3.9 million. Your administrative expenses were 621,000. You earned a little bit of interest income, and your total net position change was approximately $1,400. The next page, page 9, is your statement of cash flows. So in your operating activities, you used $371,000 of cash during the year. Your capital activities, you withdrew approximately $37,000 from your capital reserve account. You earned $372 in interest, so your net change in cash was $333,000 you used. Added your cash at the beginning of the year, it was $428, brings you to your end of the year cash of approximately $95,000. The notes to the financial statements. Since I said originally that there were no changes in accounting principles, no new accounting standards adopted, so there are no new notes to the financial statements, so I will skip over those in their entirety. And then the last report, beginning on page 13, is our required report under government auditing standards. And the important information here is at the bottom of page 13, where we identify a material weakness in your internal controls, which is then references you to finding 2021-001, which is on page 16, which is just, instead of going through all this, this is what we discussed previously, that there, issues with reconciling receivables, payables, getting everything together. There is a lengthy response of all the procedures that you have implemented subsequently. So as I said previously, our expectation for 2022 is that we will have a much cleaner audit. That is the extent of my comments, unless there's any questions.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions from the board?
I do not have any. If anybody else has any, bring them forward. No questions? Do I hear a first on this to accept his audit report? We have a first from Laura. Do I hear a second? Kristen, thank you. Yes. Yeah, do we hear any nays at all? Hearing none, we accept the audit report from 21, and thank you, Alan. That was a long process, but it worked out. Things will be smoother in the future.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks, Alan.
Okay,
Looking forward to that engagement letter.
all right, will do. All
We'll
right,
march on to 22.
we will march on to 22. All right, stay well, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See
Al.
you.
And for the same reason, I might suggest moving the capital project update up. So I know Nate's got a bunch of construction workers on site that he needs to wrangle.
Okay,
So he might need to leave.
so we'll handle that now.
If you'd like, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have any issue with that. Hey, you have the floor.
I'll bring up the PowerPoint, or you want to share your site? Edited the PowerPoint a little bit, Nate.
Whatever version, I don't know if you have the latest version, you can pull it up.
And
I have it on my computer as well, but yeah, just introduce myself again, Nate Baker with Gil Bain, the construction manager, kind of managing the project and the 4 prime contracts. So kind of a repeat from our last meeting, updates on a couple items, and then we'll give you a general construction update. You can jump to the second page. Again, our milestones, construction mobilization start was March of this year. And it got into the phase one addition foundation start in April with that phase one additions complete spring of 24. And then we'll roll into phase two. And then phase three with our final completion March spring of 2025. We'll get into kind of the phasing in the next page. So we kind of, these are off the main RFP, and we've kind of tweaked them a little bit, and there's a visual on the next slide that we'll dig into a little bit. But phase one is essentially the additions, the construction of the Sallyport, the visitation addition, and the new pod D. At the conclusion of phase one, we'll relocate the pod C residents to pod D, relocate some of Luke's staff in the admin wing, and then we'll shift into phase two. That phase two will be the renovations of pod C, the administrative wing, and some smaller classroom spaces. And then phase three is kind of the balance of the building with pod A, pod B, and some of those other spaces that kind of we will take up portions of in phase two. So if you go to the next slide, it'll give you a visual. You got cut off a little bit, but the blue, purple blue is our phase one. So you see the visitation pod D Sallyport. Work is ongoing in the visitation wing. We recently got into the pod D site clearing. We'll show you some pictures in a couple slides, and then we'll jump into the Sallyport in the next month or so. Phase two is the tannish orange. So the pod C, the admin wing are those kind of primary. Kind of the other spaces are just kind of, we're grabbing those as we can. So the dining staff, part of the classrooms, part of the gym, and the nursing station. And then concluding with phase three is that pod A, pod B, and then the balance of the gym and the classrooms.
So of note, in phase two, you see pod D in phase two. Likely we'll have to take female intake offline again in phase two.
Unless the choice would be to take female intake offline or to have 6 beds dedicated to females and go to 18 males rather than 21.
Right.
So that would be the choice.
So it'll be a future decision point for us to talk about.
Okay, you can jump to the next slide. So challenges, risks, again, just working within an occupied facility, maintaining security protocols, both within the facility, but also on site, and going through coordinating with Luke and his facility to maintain those. Utility approval and coordinated install. So we're kind of getting through the Colony and Latham water review permitting process right now. We're tracking well with National Grid on the electrical and gas. Those are always potential risks as they get busy and prioritize and push our schedule off a little bit. But so far we're maintaining that and on schedule. And then there's some new items that have popped up in the last couple months, some owner procurement. I don't see any issues, but just there's always risk with another vendor, another kind of item to coordinate. But security cameras, some door hardware, heating cylinder, and then some FF&E, some furniture and equipment towards the end of the project. So as far as our construction progress, like I said, the visitation addition, foundation excavation, and foundation installs complete. They're starting to demo the wall between the new addition and the existing lobby area. And Luke's getting some complaints on the facility side, but hopefully that's complete in the next week or so. And then we'll roll into Pod D, which we're doing some site clearing now. There's some pictures there. The Pod C emergency egress fencing was kind of our driving critical path there. That was completed last week, and we've gotten into the start of the Pod D footprint excavation. And then just items to note: the coordination drawings on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing is ongoing. So when we are able to get in walls and above ceilings, we'll be able to install that without any clashes or impacts. And then some photos. So the top left is the visitation wing, pouring our footer and getting that footprint complete and backfilled. The next, let's see, bottom left is our foundation walls in the same area. And then there's some underground sanitary storm going in at that same footprint. Yep, on there. And above that is our interior temporary wall install. That's in the lobby right now. And on the other side of that, we're doing demolition and making some noise. And then the next picture over there is the demo that we started earlier this week. And then the last picture is the rec area, the existing rec area. That fencing was removed. We stripped all this topsoil. We're starting to strip the basketball court asphalt. And we're getting into our Pod D excavation now. So it's starting to look like a construction site, which is good.
Good. Well, thanks for the update, Nate.
Any questions?
Nate and his team have been doing a great job coordinating all the contractors and coordinating, most importantly,
Yes.
Luke and the facility team to make sure we have a daily roster of all the workers that are on site. We have policies and procedures for workers that are entering the secure perimeter. And it's also a very thoughtful process in terms of how we approach every decision point, understanding that we're doing work in an occupied facility. So we have, at least 2 calls every week to coordinate with contractors and then coordinate with the oversight team to make sure we're keeping things on track.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Nate. A lot of moving parts out there, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great overview for us. And I have a first to accept his update.
I don't think we need to accept the update,
No.
but and you're free to go, Nate, unless you want to hang out and learn more about our financial principles.
Thank you.
The executive session now.
Yeah, I'd say let's.
Okay,
This so time we're going into executives. An executive session. Can I hear a first? So.
yes, please.
Do I hear a second?
Second it.
Laura, thank you.
Mark.
At this time, we're going into executive
And
session.
all those who are online are welcome to attend. I'll just assign you to the breakout room, so just give me 1 second. All right, can you hear us now? Sorry, we were on mute.
Either way is gonna be an issue. Yeah, no matter what your decision is
Mhm.
made.
Mhm. So I mean, we would either go to 6 beds for JO males. And 6 beds for females, or
24 total beds.
24 total beds.
We will be, in a couple months, we will be moving our capacity because a room has to close down from 24 to 23.
All right, that's it for the facility use.
All right. We don't have to have any movement on that, right?
Nope.
Okay. Number 8. The audit and responses.
Sure, SDOC has been working with the facility, conducted a audit of some of the facilities, particularly the medical procedures and policies. As you may recall, we needed to develop a whole new set of policies and procedures before we opened the specialized secure. And as you know, law becomes regulations become policies, there's some learning that happens there. And so this is a reflection of sort of SCOC's refinement of what their expectations are in terms of, medical service provision. So the deficiencies are highlighted in the commission's memo, and Berkshire's responses are also highlighted. And I think now, according to the correspondence we just received yesterday, it's not in your packet. It seems like this matter has been completely resolved.
Yes, we've sent our final responses in yesterday, which we have spoken to them, so it seems like that will go through. But we will let you know. Other issues to come up, and we are the first facility. This will be done in every facility in the state. We are the first ones to go through this.
Okay. Any other questions? This time? Okay, the next item. Number 9, heightened monitoring progress report.
So as you know, we've been on heightened monitoring for a long time. But we have had consistently throughout this year positive reports. Our original from the state, they had sent us, if we consistently reported positively, that on June 14th would be able to come off heightened monitoring. However, on June 14th, all the primary individuals from OCFS were either sick or off. So I did meet with the associate commissioner to discuss, noted that we were doing everything we needed to do. We do have a site visit scheduled for Friday, so we can show we are consistently doing it. So our next monthly meeting is in July, where we will hopefully be able to move forward with removal of heightened monitoring.
Sounds good. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Thank you much.
Sure, yeah, I'm sorry. Craig, there was a memo from the State Commission of Corrections that was in the construction report,
Yeah.
the capital project update that I neglected to go over. But it's an instruction sort of memo about transitioning, working towards opening the new facility at 39 beds. So it's in your packet. It's just basically the state agency saying, well, you better prepare and get a coordinated team together to walk through all the issues of standing up to the new wings of your facility. Luke has already been doing that.
Yes.
You want to just talk about a little bit of the pre-planning?
Sure. So we have to put together a transition team. So the transition team right now is myself, my 2 assistant directors, and our maintenance supervisor. So we are all working together. You're going to see a whole number of issues in this that we need to address. Our operational documents it's dynamic, so we're changing them as we change things, moving through construction monitoring. Mark said we meet twice a week. Training and orientation, we have created a training administrator. So we're handling all training, and we have a new training space on New Garner Road that we're using. Some of these items like classification and move logistics will have to happen when we actually do the move, but we are already planning for it. Our equipment and system testing and facility key control have all been part of our build as we move forward. And our staffing, we just presented our staffing matrix for the final build to OCFS and SCOC last week. So to prepare for 2025, so we're just going through that with them now. We think it's pretty positive. They didn't have a whole lot of initial comments, but they will send us back a report and then we will go through that with them to make sure. And so we are able to present to you later in the year what we're going to be looking at, so you know why what's in our budget is in our budget.
Good. I appreciate that. And I'm sure we have had these items in the back of our
Oh, yeah.
minds going forward. They're just putting it to protect themselves also.
Yes, and these are things we're constantly working on. Every time we change anything, like for instance, when we have a super, we're gonna have to close down our rec area and move it onto the dorm. We've already presented our policies and procedures, and how we're gonna do that to SCOC and OCFS. So when that comes in, we're months ahead of
Yes.
everything that's going on.
They're just want to see it, right? Any questions regarding this? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna go on to item 10. Facility operation. Again, back here.
So as Mark said, we've been full, or close to full, but we have been running full programming, even with our smaller rec yard. We're still doing all of our stuff outside. We do have a full-time rec staff now working with our kids, which has been great. School has just ended. We have one young man who has one more Regents this week, but if you pass that, he'll be graduating, which is exciting. And we have another young man who is taking a Regents this week. As long as he passes that, in August, he needs to take another Regents and he will graduate. So we could be looking at 4 graduates this year, which will be a record for our facility. So we're very excited about that.
Very good.
Working with the Chris Wilson Foundation on the master plan program to help young men move forward and develop a plan, move forward, even if they are going on to future correctional facilities. It is a 13-week program. We did complete that in May. Our first group went through it, very successful. Chris Wilson from Baltimore he zoomed in and met with the team, and Nina Alidor, Associate Commissioner with OCFS, came to witness the graduation. It was a great time. All of our kids were able to complete the class. We had 13 of our AO youth complete the class, so it was very good. And we do have funding to run another session, which we will be starting in September with some of our younger guys. Also, my staff attended the virtual reality vocational training. So we have a couple VR headsets where we're going to do some vocational training as we move forward. If anybody wants to come over and see them, we have at the facility. You can fix air conditioners and heating units with your VR headset, which is good. Our tablets, which we have put together for our youth. We've been working for a long time with the company Securus. They've been bought out twice, which has caused it to linger a little bit, but we did officially sign the contract 2 weeks ago, and we should be given a project manager this week. The install is about a 30 to 45 day process. So once we get that installed, we will have tablets for all of our youth with, it'll include media, education, law library, all their religious needs can be met on the tablet. As well as some things like they'll be able to email me directly and talk to me. They'll be able to email the nurse directly for confidential discussions with the nurse. So we're very excited to have that on. So we're expecting 2 months, we will have that up and running. Very good. Also something that was noted, and I know Maura, you had brought this up, so I wanted to make sure you know, with staffing is being up. We're not fully staffed, but we are more staffed than we have been, and we have taken our vehicle and got it installed with safety features, including cages in it. So now for emergency medical trips, we can take care of the transportation. If we need to take a youth into the hospital from the facility that doesn't require the ambulance, we are able to do emergency medical trips now. And we will not be required to call the sheriff to come and do that.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Yep.
Another thing I think that we've been looking at for a while, but is happening in advance, particularly the tablets coming in, is getting a new fiber optic circuit for the facility. So a 200 by 200 service in conjunction with a
Jamie.
new telephone service. So their phones have been limping along, they're 25+ years old.
I'm sorry.
So as we go through this process and coordinating with the construction phasing, that line is gonna be run into the facility and a new service is gonna be installed.
Who's that? Who owns that? Fiber optic. Well,
So I believe the company is called Upstack. And I think they partner with First Light.
which one?
Yeah.
Interesting. What they're going then.
Does anybody have any additional questions on the facility?
I want to thank you for all your updates. They are very informative and keep us all on the same page. So
If anybody wants to come see the construction and see how things are going, don't hesitate.
as a matter of
Let
fact,
me know.
I think I'm gonna take advantage of that shortly.
I
Okay,
can schedule something.
do you want to do it as a group or?
I mean, I guess if we could throw out some dates and then see if folks are available, but anybody's free to, contact me and we can arrange something.
Okay, good. I can move forward on that. As will we have in other issues also. Okay, is there any other business that we gotta talk about? Or,
Just like to thank Luke in terms, really taking a lot of the stress off my shoulders for the capital projects because he's in advance of every sort of decision point, has all the policies squared away, gets the approvals from the agencies, so we can have no delay in our project.
sounds good. Is there any other issues that we want to hear? Any questions? Hearing none. Our next meeting is October 18th, 9 o'clock.
Can I ask who made the motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, excuse me.
Well, it's all right. We have our next.
We weren't gonna do anything without you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Can't make a motion until you're here.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? So moved. So moved. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Laura, thank you. Yays? Aye. Nays? Hearing none, we are adjourned.